where the keyboard is maybe not the best way to interact with other people online. That's so much for Wacom for the moment. With us today is Ross from Teacher Toolkit, as I mentioned. He is running a very popular platform on the interweb, and that you probably know and are aware of. And yeah, we're very, very happy to have you on board because it's obviously much more interesting to have somebody out of the field of, or in the field of education who's got experience as a teacher to show us a little bit more how technical solutions could help us in this situation. So here you go, and enjoy the webinar, and talk to you later.
Thank you, Harun. So just saying hello to everybody. My name's Ross. I've been a teacher in London for 25 years in high schools. I'm a huge fan of technology. It's also an Achilles heel in the classroom, but I want to talk about the Wacom devices that we've got today. You'll see on my screen, I've got one by my side. So I've been road testing this particular device for the last couple of weeks. And with me is Guido. So I'm going to ask Guido to just introduce himself shortly. I just realized I've pressed the wrong button there and logged off. So I'll sort that out in a second. My particular passion is teacher workload. And I've been writing on my blog on Teacher Toolkit for about 12 years now, and I have about 500,000 monthly readers. So that's become a full-time job, as well as me training teachers in schools across the world. So I'm going to share some of my insights from my blog, some of the data that we've got from people participating this afternoon. And I've got a lot of questions that I'm going to throw at Guido, and Guido is going to go through and model some of the things that I believe that you would want to see as a teacher. So he's very much the expert, not myself, in terms of using the device. So I guess, Guido, can I start off with asking you just to introduce yourself to everybody, and then I'll throw a first question at you.
Yes.
That's okay.
Thank you, Ross. So hi, my name is Guido. I am also with Wacom about 20 years now, and my background at Wacom is more on the product marketing, product management side. And since a couple of years, I'm supporting our sales team in doing solution consultancy. So working with our customers, finding out which of our product portfolio fits best to their needs or solutions. And this brings me also directly into the education business. So we are taking care of education since many years. But since the COVID-19 situation, it turns mass market, so to say. So yes, and I'm really, really happy and pleased to help today and work with Ross together and find the answer for your questions and show you what to do with Wacom Tablet. Thank you.
So Guido, I guess the first question, you're on the Wacom 1 device, and I've got the Cynic 16. I guess, could you just show people, I'll get my video connected again here on my side, but can you just give everyone a little demo of how you've got it set up on your desk, and we'll just kind of go through the general logistics of how it's connected to the table?
Yes. I would have to, so this is my Wacom 1 tablet you will see here. Let's put it a bit bigger. So you see actually two Wacom tablets. You see a Wacom Intuos here on the back, which is a traditional tablet, as you probably know. So where you can write directly on an opaque surface. And in front of me, I have my Wacom 1. And the Wacom 1 is basically a screen and a tablet combined and connected to, in this case, a PC, but you can also connect it to a Macintosh PC. You can connect it to a Linux-powered PC. So this is a nice thing you will have with our Wacom tablets. It connects to all three different operating systems, Linux, macOS, or Windows. And the connection is rather simple. So you need a power connection for the leads. And this cable here, this is a 3-in-1 cable, goes into my Wacom 1, and it breaks out into a USB connection for the tablet pen signal and HDMI for the video signal. So very easy also to dismantle and to carry around if you work either in the school or in your home office. So just install the driver on your PC or Mac and plug in the tablet, and off we go.
Great. So Guido, in terms of the benefits for people using kind of Windows, Microsoft applications and Apple, and, you know, or maybe why not an iPad? What would you respond and say to people asking those questions?
Oh yeah, this is a great question. So actually, the nice thing with the Wacom One tablet is it's super flexible. So for example, the iPad is a great device. It's super portable. Also with the newer iPads, you have a pen, but the portability and the bound operating system, the iOS, is also which I think is the greatest limitation, because you are really stuck to the iOS. You can only run applications which are supporting iOS. And also, if you want to use the pen on the iPad, the pen has to be supported by the application. And at least now, a lot of applications do not support the Apple Pencil. And this is not the case with a Wacom tablet. So as I mentioned, it connects to whatever PC or Mac or Linux. And since the pen, after installing the Wacom driver, behaves like a mouse, so you can control all your application like you would do with a mouse. But since you are navigating directly on the panel, you're much faster and more direct and also more intuitive. So, and coming back to applications, basically all applications you are used to work with in your day-to-day routine can be operated with a Wacom pen. But also the pen is pressure sensitive. So in applications like Microsoft Whiteboard or PDF annotation, you can do some nice, very natural looking annotations. So almost like on paper.
Right, so I'm going to come to all the fun and exciting demonstrations shortly. I'm just going to, if I direct everyone to my camera table, you'll see here, I've got the Cintiq 16 large device. I've got it on a stand at the back. It also has a stand built in. So I've just got an extra tilt. And I've also got this Intuos Pro, which is kind of a tabletop pad for drawing, and my pen. And that's how I've got it set up. And again, I'm still pretty much new to this last couple of weeks. So I'm still playing around with how I would use this on my table. I'm also just going to share a bit of data with you on the screen. So I'm just going to show you 4 slides. So you'll get a sense of the issues that we're all facing, you know, given lockdown. So I hope you can see this if I just put those full size. So we just asked a few questions when people signed up. And, you know, for my context, working in the UK, there's been a big disparity between government-led schools, so state schools and private schools. But generally speaking, given the lockdown, schools have responded really well to get their resources online, curriculum, those types of things. But you can see here the data. So we've got about 300 sign-ups for this afternoon session. You can see how people have adjusted to online lessons. It's important to, I guess, differentiate between live synchronous lessons and asynchronous lessons, so things that are recorded and shared after rather than live like we're doing now. Next bit of data, we asked you what we found was the most challenging about teaching remotely. So at some point where appropriate, I'm going to share the research. So my own fascination with teacher workload, but for context, I'm doing my doctorate degree at Cambridge, and I'm looking at teacher voice, teacher autonomy, and how people use technology in particular. So there's a range of responses here. In terms of the biggest challenge that you all said, it's engagement online. So what we want to try and do is engage and kind of demonstrate how, and I'll signpost some bits of research which suggest how best to go about doing the activities. And I've actually done a lot about reading on memory and cognitive load theory. And if you take a child's age as a broad rule of thumb, if they're 8 years old, add 2, and their paying attention span is about 10 minutes. Interestingly, for adults, it's about 20 to 25 minutes also. And our working memory can only store 4 to 8 pieces of information for about 30 seconds. So I'm keeping an eye on the clock. We're 15 minutes in, so I'm going to get Guido to do a demonstration to keep you excited in a moment. And we asked you if you owned a Wacom product, so you can see the vast majority of you don't. So we hope you'll be interested in the devices. I'm sure you'll have your own technology already set up in your kind of work context. And I guess I just want to finish with this one here. You know, you look at the biggest issues here, engaging generally students. So a lot of people kind of said it in different ways. So it was the overriding issue. I know my own work in state schools here in London, often funding, time to learn how to use it, ICT training, often in the lowest priority in terms of needs for teachers across the school. And it's not like that everywhere. That's my own experience. So I'll just come out the slides, Guido. I guess first question I can ask you is, can you just give us a kind of whistle-stop tour of how you might use this device in a maths or an English lesson? What would you do?
Actually, yeah, let me switch my camera to the tablet cam that you can see also. While I'm sharing my screen, you can also see what my hand is doing on the camera. So let me do a screen share here. So I've prepared a couple of scenarios. So for example, you should see my screen now here. And basically what I would like to tell you in the next couple of minutes is what you can do already by just having a Wacom tablet connected and just using standard Microsoft Windows 10 tools and also the Microsoft Office. And then you can also look into the PDF applications. So let's start. So basically, before I come back to your math and biology questions, so let me show you a nice tool which basically helps you to emulate the typical Blackboard and whiteboard on your school. And if you're running on a Windows operating system, which is Windows 10, you have, and a tablet connected, you have the Windows Ink workspace. Can you see it down here? So it's a small tiny icon. And if you click here, you have the Microsoft Whiteboard. Let me open the whiteboard. And now you have a screen where you have a couple of whiteboards. So I have already some whiteboards prepared, math, biology, and physics. And you can create a new whiteboard. And let's go into the math whiteboard here. Just click in here. And this is what it basically is. It is a whiteboard. I can use my pens down here. I have a couple of pens. I can adjust the colors, the strength of the pen. Let's take a red pen here. And the nice thing is with the Microsoft Whiteboard and the Wacom pen is it is pressure sensitive. What does this mean? It means if you press harder and softer, it behaves like a real pen. So the stroke gets wider and smaller depending on my hand pressure. And I have tools like the eraser here, which is also pressure sensitive. And I have a highlighter and a text marker. And starting from a white blank board, you can use whatever your pen you want with your pen. Let's take a black pen and start drawing, for example, formulas.
So I guess the immediate benefit, Guido, is, you know, traditionally my own experience in the classroom in front of a whiteboard with 30 pupils in front of me, and I would be annotating on the physical board. I guess having a device at my desk in any kind of room, a large lecture theatre or an assembly hall, and again, depending on the size of the screen that can project the image from the device, I guess there's a lot of potential.
Yes, exactly. Because this is a nice thing, as you mentioned, if you're sitting in a classroom and you have the projector behind you, and if you use a standard whiteboard, you have to turn your back to your students and draw something. Here, you're constantly keeping eye contact with your audience while drawing on the Cintiq or on the Wacom One, like on paper, and with all the advantages of being digital. So, and what else can you do? What you cannot do with a whiteboard. With the Microsoft software, you can also add content. So you can add, for example, images, which is, yes, of course, you can use an image from, let me go back and go into the biology part. You can add an image which is coming from your image library. So in this case, it's coming from my desktop. I take an animal cell. So the nice thing is now I can use my tools here to resize it, to put it into a certain position. This is also a nice thing. The whiteboard is huge. So you can use, or you can prepare your lesson in a way where you can use one whiteboard for different graphics. Now I can zoom in, zoom out, and I can use my pen here for annotation.
So what I like about this is if I was developing a curriculum or a scheme of work, I could work on one slide and zoom out and go to lesson 2 next, and let's drag over and let's look what we did last lesson.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Fantastic.
You can go back here, and everything you do, it's automatically stored,
Mm-hmm.
and you can recall it anytime. And the nice thing I also want to mention is you can go here and you can go on Bing Image. It's not
Mm-hmm.
Google Image Search, it's Bing Image because it's Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a handwritten field here. You can do whatever cell. And now the handwriting comes into place and say, okay, this is what I found on the internet, images with the term cell, and they're also under Creative Commons, so they are free to use.
So I had a question, Guido. I'm a big advocate of reducing teachers' workload. Teachers are incredibly time poor. They don't have a lot of time. And I think that what you've just shown there is a great feature that I can write the word cell very quickly. It gives me some images. I can add them to the device. Is there anything else that it can do really quickly that would help busy teachers save a bit of time?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely that one. So if you look at here, so basically Whiteboard, I mentioned it already. And the nice thing with the Whiteboard is you can collaborate with your students. You can interact. So by just clicking here, you can create a sharing link. And Microsoft creates a sharing link. And this link now you can mail to your students, or put it into the chat window, and then you can interact. Every student having this link can work with you on this specific
on the same slide.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, before we came live online, I was talking to you about my visualizer. So I've got lots of versions of these. This has got a little light, a magnifying glass. And typically, I was doing a drawing with my students. I'm a design and technology teacher, so a bit of graphics or an assignment. I emailed you over an assignment earlier to do a bit of work, Guido. Could you just show people, rather than having a visualizer, how the Wacom One could be used to mark a student's piece of work?
Yeah, usually a visualizer like the one you showed comes with their own application, or they can import the images. And here is this is something you cannot do with the Microsoft Whiteboard. What you do here is you use an application like Openboard. Openboard is a nice piece of software. It's also open source. It's developed by Swiss University, and it's basically also, first of all, a whiteboard application. But what makes this nice is it works in a show desktop mode. And here is what you can already see. You have your normal Windows desktop, and you can use whatever application, for example, your visualizer or just a web page, and you can use tools from this software to work directly on whatever content. In this case, on my web browser, or I can even go on YouTube and have a video on YouTube. And I can work on my YouTube video.
Fantastic.
Go to a certain image and then use my annotation tools here as well. Wow. And of course, this is just for the lesson, but you want to provide some materials to your students afterwards. And what you would do here is you would do a screenshot of whatever you do, put it into the Whiteboard application, and then you can export it as a PNG graphics and mail it to your students. And this is also one way to work with a visualizer in a live content. But there's another way. If you have a visualized document already, which can be, for example, a scanned or photographed PDF document, you can go into another application, which is a PDF application. There are many PDF applications on the market. There are many of them come for free. And some of them you pay about £30. Let me show you that one here. This one is, for example, the application called PDF Annotator. And here I've opened a PDF document, which is basically an English lesson, right, Ross? This is a
religious education lesson.
Yeah. So, and here you see, for example, there's some English text. And here you can use also tools like the highlighter. Okay, here is how people use their money that matters. Obviously, even for me as a German, this is not sounding right. So I would highlight this here. Okay, this is not correct. I can use even a red pencil and I can do
so you
my
can
annotation.
take pictures or share this with the student.
Yes.
Can you share this live also so the student can see it happen?
Of course. This is basically what we are doing now, right? If
Yeah.
you are in an interactive session with a student, you have applications like Teams, Zoom, or WebEx. So I share my screen here, put the PDF the PDF annotator up, and I can do it live while the students are watching here. And afterwards, I can save this as part of the PDF and I can forward it to my students just as I would do it on normal paper.
Sure. So I'm going to ask you for some app demonstrations in a moment, Guido, but just for people watching, there'll be a lot of people thinking about costs. I know myself, when I first got this device, it's hard to get a bit of confidence to be able to use it personally, never mind with 30 students are running around you all the time. I'm just going to take my screen and just show you a couple of things that I've been researching. So if I take your screen, Guido, if that's okay, I'm just going to show you everybody my website and just point to a couple of blog posts that you might want to watch back on the recording and just check. First blog I want to signpost. I read this piece of research. I believe it's the only one of the kind. It's called Does Size Matter? And what I've got for you here is, you can see here is a slide that I might share with my students in live or synchronous or asynchronous lessons. And you've got a large image of me here and a small and a medium. And essentially the research conclusions were that the smaller your video during live screen demonstrations, so whatever Guido's doing or through your slides, works better to reduce cognitive load and help students retain information. Ultimately, as teachers, we want kids to remember stuff. So that blog's called Does Size Matter? The next blog, and I know not everyone's watching here in the UK where I'm based, but this is a piece of research from the Education Endowment Foundation, which is an organisation here in England which looks at lots of research in British schools. And what, I won't go through it all, but essentially there was kind of key conclusions. What does the evidence say about teaching remotely? And this is something we've all had to do during lockdown. And essentially, the key thing for me is whatever piece of research that we read or take part in ourselves, it's the quality of the teaching that matters. So here I am stuck at home with all my devices. I've got a kind of mini whiteboard behind me. How do I deliver engaging lessons is what I'm going to pose to Guido shortly in terms of apps and helping people's confidence. And then there's one more bit of research I'm just going to signpost. This came out last month. And again, this is from an organisation called Evidence-Based Education. And in England, we have this huge focus on looking at research to inform our teaching practice. And it's a very, very good, interesting piece of research. It talks about 4 components to understand, to create, manage, and present. And then there's 17 elements. So I've given you a graphic there with the 17 things that good teachers should do. So you might find that interesting. There's a link to the full paper there. So I just thought I'd just take a moment to just share some of the research that I've been reading throughout lockdown as we all get to grips with teaching remotely. So I've got a couple of questions for you, Guido. If I'm a teacher new to this device and I'm lacking a bit of confidence, what would you say is the best thing that I should start with? And what are any kind of applications that you would recommend I use first to get that confidence?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, I would really recommend to start, although we have a lot of tablets, to start with an on-screen tablet like the Wacom One. Because with this tablet, you directly see what you are doing. You see how you write. It's like on paper. With traditional tablets like the Wacom Intuos, you have the hand-eye coordination issue. Your eyes are looking on the screen, your hand is writing down there. And this takes a lot of time and training, between 3 hours and 3 weeks is my experience. And this can also cause frustration at the beginning and also leads to feeling unsure and uncomfortable when doing your webinars or your online seminars. So that's why I really recommend try a Wacom One or a Cintiq 16 as you have, because it's like on paper, no learning curve. And then also try an application like Microsoft Whiteboard. And before you do your first online session, play around, do some strokes, draw something, draw formulas, import PDFs, import images, do arrange your workspaces, just play around, and then you feel comfortable in a very, very quick way. And then if your confidence is there, your confidence also turns over to your audience. Yeah.
So I guess, you know, there'll be a lot of teachers watching who already use, you know, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Classroom. Could you give us a little demo of maybe I know you've already done a couple of ones, but maybe some plug-in apps or some software that teachers already use? And I've been using Google Classroom myself for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
So could I maybe shift your focus away from, you know, maths, English, science, and something to a bit more creative, like an art lesson? Or
definitely.
Like that? And could you maybe give us a demo with maybe inside Google Classroom or using Microsoft applications?
Yeah, let's go into screen share mode again. So you should see my screen. So basically, this is what I recommend. Of course, most of the applications for online training, like Zoom, like Teams, they have their own tools to annotate on screen. But I always recommend, don't use them. Just go into simple screen sharing and use more appropriate tools like Whiteboard, like even Office document. What people mostly don't know is that you have a Microsoft Office and you have a tablet installed. Let me open Word, for example. You have the drawing tools also in your Office applications. And with these drawing tools, you can do a lot of things. So you can draw and annotate in whatever document you have opened in Word. And you can even draw and put it into certain shapes or into formulas directly. I come to the formula thing later on. And it also, Word gives you a drawing canvas where you can do your drawings in your Word document. And this you can do live, but also in an offline mode. And also, the nice thing is 1, 2, 3, 4, you can also do an ink replay, which goes into replay your strokes in a certain sequence.
That's a great feature.
Yeah. And so you have infinite possibilities. And this is not only in Word, it's also, you'll find in Excel and in PowerPoint. If you do your PowerPoint presentation, if you're in presentation mode, you can do your...
So I guess any people watching that are budget holders, people with the money, for example, or people that might be working in leadership teams in schools, colleges, universities, I guess access to Microsoft Excel and all those places where you look at spreadsheets, that it's basically all there.
Yeah, and also one interesting, so I think a lot of people already know, is Microsoft OneNote, which is a tool which is also available for most operating systems. And this is basically made for handwriting. So you can do different, I would say, notebooks with different pages. And in the pages, you can do, for example, let's come back to the mathematic formulas. So as I mentioned this, I can draw my formula here, x plus 2 since 0. So this is just a formula like I did previously on the whiteboard. But the nice thing is with OneNote, it turns it into a real formula by using the selection tool, highlighting this and say, okay, let's go to the math. And now it says, okay, this is the formula I've recognized. And now if I'm a math teacher, I can do different activities here, like solving for x, put in a graph in 2D, or just put it into a standard formula into my OneNote document. And this is, there is even a tool, it's called Class Notebook, where you can really prepare your online classes only within PowerPoint. And there are so many videos specialized on this topic, OneNote for classes. So it's really, really recommending for me to look into that one.
I've got a couple of other questions, Guido, in terms of just living life in school for teachers. You know, I've worked in some incredibly challenging schools in London where, if I'm honest, if I had this on my table, one, it's either the cables are going to get pulled out, two, I might have to keep locking the device away. But let's just take a scenario that your cable at the top there comes out. Could you just give us a quick demo of how long it takes to restart and set up?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Yeah, I could basically. Let's see what happens if I pull it out in a live mode. Should I do it now?
Yes, please, because I think there's a reality that if a child comes and pulls the cable out, how long does it take for a teacher to set it back up?
Okay, now my screen now is black.
Yeah.
Just
so we can see your screen whiteboard at the moment.
And we are back. Here we are.
So super quick.
So it was super quick, and this is the nice thing on a modern PC, I would say, running Windows or Macintosh. It stores the whole screen setups. Basically, I'm working here on 3 different screens, so I have a very special setup, which is not even the use case you have in schools. Usually you have 1 or 2 screens plus a projector. And here, but even in this more complex situation, you see, even if I plug the cable, replug it, it takes a second or 2.
In terms of security, you know, when you turn the device on, can anyone, you know, obviously you're logged into your software, so I guess it's just a display, you'd need to log in, those types of things.
Yes, yeah. So it's just going back. So I stopped my screen because it was on the wrong screen. Let me go back to my main screen here. So, okay, now you can see my screen again, right?
Yeah. So you just log in as normal.
Yeah.
And it's a situation such as leading a whole school or college assembly where there's 500 students in a large amphitheater. I know the answer, but just for your opinion, how would you set this up in an assembly room, and how may it be used? Yeah,
so this is a scenario which we have relatively often also in bigger schools and universities. Apparently, if you are in a big main auditorium, of course you can use the same device I have here, but usually you have a fixed installation there. And for this specific cases, we have bigger screens. So 24-inch, even up to 32 inches. So
twice the size that I've got here.
Yes, yes. It's really like a big screen. And this is already built in or attached to a podium. And then you just come with your content on a USB stick and plug it in, and off we go. So it's way more fast to access because it's a fixed installation, where this one is a typical situation where I, as a teacher, could change quickly between my home situation or the present situation at school.
Now, I've got some key questions. So I'm going to put my cynical hat on. Why should I not use an iPad?
Yeah, I briefly mentioned at the beginning. As I said, the iPad is a great tool, but I personally see the iPad more on the student side. Me as a teacher, I want to have full flexibility. I want to work with a full range of applications, and I want to work with the applications I want. On iOS, I'm limited with iOS.
Sure.
And iOS is not nice if I can operate something with the touch of my finger. If I want precision, I need a pencil, the Apple Pencil.
Yeah.
The Apple Pencil only works if the application is really supporting the Apple Pencil. Otherwise, it does not work. So, and with a Wacom tablet, if you install a driver, you are flexible. As I mentioned,
obviously you can use Microsoft and Apple products on
whatever, since the pen replaces your mouse. So everything which works with a basic mouse cursor works already. And many applications, since we are in the market for almost 40 years, so we are kind of recognized in that market, and many people adapt the application also to work with the pressure sensitivity.
Well, now I think you've sold it to me, because I've used an iPad for years, and I already like the functionality and the breadth of applications I can use. Here's the key question: how much do they cost?
Yeah, that's a good point. So the Wacom One is our entry-level interactive pen display. I think we are starting here with a recommended retail price of £350-ish, so £349. And the one you have, I think it's £549, which is a 16-inch, slightly bigger.
Are these business prices or education prices?
No, this is standard recommended retail prices. So education prices are usually lower than this one. So we have educational programs, especially in the UK and in all other countries. And
for people watching that might want to buy a set for a classroom or for a department, for a group of teachers or a school even, obviously there'll be discounts available and things like that.
This is then a complete different story. Then we have other prices, so-called project prices. So please get in touch with us and we can help.
Great. Now I had another question before we came online. If I think of when I first used my visualizer or an iPad, things like that, and I've worked in a design technology classroom where the classroom's very large and I would need to walk around regularly rather than sit at my table. And I asked you earlier about it needs to be connected. What are the advantages and disadvantages of the device? Because there's going to be one or two. So I just wonder, you know, I'd like to be able to carry it around, and we said earlier that you probably couldn't. So could you just give us some pros and cons, Guido?
Yeah, usually if you are thinking of a use case scenario where you want to walk around in a room, we have different devices. We call them mobile studios. So it's called Mobile Studio Pro.
Okay.
We have them in different sizes, 13 and 16 inch. And they're basically, on first sight, they look like a Wacom One, but they're a bit thicker and they have a high performance computer inside. So they're basically tablets with the same advantage and the same sensitivity of a Wacom digitizer on top.
Mm-hmm. And
those devices are fully portable. They run on battery, but also powerful enough even for I would say, university lessons on CAD and 3D. Because
and are those typically just for the teacher, or is that device given to the student?
Actually, they are also given to a student. We have a big school in Italy, in the north of Italy, where when the students start, every student got a Wacom Mobile Studio Pro as part of their curriculum.
Right. Now, if they dropped it, how robust is it? The other device that you're talking about, the thicker one? Yes,
it's pretty robust. So it's not super lightweight. It's optimized on performance and robustness. So it's an aluminium unibody device. It's heavy. It's quite heavy. It feels heavy. It feels solid. It feels sturdy. Of course, you can drop it. If you drop it from here on a concrete floor, it might get some damage.
Sure.
But compared to other devices in that market segment, I would flag it as super robust. Yeah. Now, not ruggedized, but robust. Yeah.
Now, we're getting into the last 20 minutes, and again, what I've learned about memory, everyone's cognitive load. Guido, can I ask you to do your best demonstration or show off your super skills? You've been using this device for a long time. Can you give us a little 2 or 3 minute demo of some your kind of best bits or the things that you can do, and show us its true potential, if that's possible?
Yes. So what I basically would do, again, I would use Microsoft Whiteboard because it's so flexible.
Mm-hmm.
So, and let's create a new whiteboard and just import whatever I want to work on an interactive session. So I already showed how to import images, but I can also import PDF documents. So let's go one. Let's take my very popular cell. I opened the PDF document with a complete curriculum, which contains, in this case, I think 10 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Now it asks me, okay, let's take all pages or take a single page. Now take one page in here. Okay, put it here, there, somewhere. Then I can also add a Word document in here. Let's take a storyboard, whatever it is. Again, and resize it a bit, arrange it, and so on. And the nice thing is here also some more tools. It has a cool topic. It's called ink to table or ink to shape. For example, if I want to draw a table here, let's do another pen. I use this one. You see the autocorrection goes into a square, and here, and just I draw some lines and it gives me a table. Oops.
Great.
Here we go. And now I can use another pen. I can do my annotation directly in the table, and the table automatically adapts the size. But there's more. I have sticky notes here, which I can use. And it automatically recognizes I have a pen. It goes into handwriting recognition.
We got a voice recorder there, I can see as well.
Yes, and I have other cool tools. I have a ruler. And with the ruler, I can do ruler things. So I can use to adjust the angle. However, showing the ruler, the nice thing with an interactive pen display like a Wacom One is you can use your physical ruler and put it on top, or your French curves. And since it works like on paper,
on the screen itself.
Yes, exactly. You can really work like you would do in analog mode, but with all the advantages of being digital.
And can you just show us, like maybe in a spreadsheet, what might happen, you know, around a board table or in an office meeting, you know, the kind of things you could do in traditional Excel, graphs, those types of things?
Yeah. So let's go into Excel and putting my Excel sheet on the screen. Here we go. And pretty similar to the one of what I've showed in the work document. I can use here my drawing tools and do highlighting like in the board tools and say, do my annotations. Check. And this will be stored as part of the Excel document. It will not corrupt the cells in the Excel document. The cells are still there and they still work as they should, but it goes as a kind of overlay to my Excel document. So the original document will not be corrupted.
And you can flip out of that and go actually into the document, or?
Yeah, sure. You can save this one. And if you're going here, for example, into the select mode, I'm still in my classical work mode.
Now, another question. I mean, I talked earlier about the research. It's great to have all these devices, but the quality of teaching matters. What training does Wacom offer people that purchase a device, you know, in terms of online tutorials, live webinar sessions, such as what we're doing now?
Yes, so we are offering live online sessions for educational institutes on demand that we offer, and for teachers we are working on a series of small YouTube videos. So we have a playlist already on 7 videos, which we made in the last couple of weeks, where I just explain what I've explained now in this webinar. Again, which tablet would be the best to use, what applications do support what pen features, how do I work with Microsoft Whiteboard, how can I use with the tablet in Teams or Zoom. This we have already. This is on the YouTube playlist. I think Jerome later can put this into the chat as well. But we are working constantly on new content for the education markets.
And is there, just to kind of, for my own benefit as well as hopefully everyone else's, the Wacom products come with, do they come with specific software, or is it synchronizing with, you know, Microsoft, those Apple? I mean, before we came online, I've also downloaded all the kind of Clip Studio downloads that come with each product.
Yes, actually, we have various products, and these products we have shown here today, Intours on the back and the Wacom One, they come already with software. So if you buy the product and you register with for the Wacom ID, you have a choice of software you can download.
Yeah. Shall I show everyone my screen and show them what I've downloaded on my device? Let's just see if I can fathom this out. So if
I stop sharing now, and you can take over. Okay,
so if I put this screen on over here, and I'm going to just drag over some of the things that I've had on my Cintiq. So this is called Sketchfab. There's a whole bank of graphics. I guess once I develop a bit more degree of expertise, I'll be able to, correct me if I'm wrong, Guido, but I'll be able to draw and play around with these a little bit more.
Yeah, these are the Sketchfab is more from an application which is called Substance. So you can work on visualize 3D content.
Yeah,
so 3D models, and you can use in your own presentations, for example.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm already hooked, you know, being a graphic designer, I'm already hooked with all this stuff. And then, as I said at the start of the session, I've got all my devices connected here, adding different applications. I can go into all the different settings that I've got connected so far. So I've got a Wacom One, a Cintiq 16. I've got the Intuos Pro desk pad with my pens. Just everyone can see this side. You know, I'm pretty much beginner here, but I've got all my kind of display settings here. And then I've also downloaded a couple of studio things, which give me some kind of graphic animation. So you'll see that there, where I guess I can do all sorts of interesting drawings. So correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's pretty much what most people would experiment with in the beginning and learn what software they need depending on the subject they teach.
Yeah, right. So this is just the software you just showed were most for the creative user, but that doesn't mean that a teacher cannot use them. For example, the application you showed, like Clip Studio Paint, is a wonderful drawing application. So where you can also draw your sketches in that application and share it with the students. And also, what we probably forgot to mention is that the Wacom One, you can even use in a very portable environment by, I mentioned it, you can connect it to your Windows PC, to your Macintosh, and to your Linux, but you can also connect it to certain Android devices. So like if you have a Samsung Android phone, you can connect the Wacom One via USB-C adapter. You can even run the Wacom One with your power bank, so in a complete, I would say, remote location. And then magically, your phone screen goes up to 13 inch and you can operate all the apps on your phone with the Wacom Pen. And there are a couple of applications like Autodesk Sketchbook, drawing applications, Bamboo Paper from Wacom, which you can use on both screens, on your mobile phone, and even if you have the Wacom One connected on the big screen here.
So there's loads of options, and assuming most people have a phone.
Super flexible.
Yeah. So Guido, thank you. I'm just going to finish with this slide, and then I'll ask Göran to come back on and maybe ask one or two questions. But going back to the beginning, we asked everyone what do you find most challenging, and engagement has been the overriding issue. And I guess the research that I'm aware of, countless times, it's the quality of teaching that matters. Now, during COVID, when we are in lockdown and not necessarily with our children in class, how we do this online is going to make a huge difference. So there's a training need, I guess, for teachers. Wacom devices offer a solution, and I think Guido's definitely convinced me that moving, I've got Mac devices, moving away from just the iPad in the classroom to having a broader range of features and availability on the Cintiq device I've got here, plugging into Microsoft applications as well as Apple, offers a huge scope. So here's your data, folks. Engagement seems to be the biggest reason you're all here. So I hope, Guido and I hope I've asked the majority of questions on your behalf. We'll pause for 5 minutes just to take some general questions in the chat box. And I guess Wacom will also tell you what's going to happen with the video and the slides and the data that we have, and send out to you all through your email, how you can get more information, certain devices and things about costs and those types of things. So from me, I'm just going to say thank you at this point. Thank you, Guido, also. We've been your hosts. So over to our super hosts for any general questions.
Thank you, Ross. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Guido.
Well, thanks, Ross. Thanks, Guido. This was a very, 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 very interesting webinar. I have learned a lot still after so many webinars on our products. Let's have a quick look at the Q&A section of Zoom. There's a couple of things. Most of them have actually been answered by you in the course of the webinar. Where was it? So obviously we will be sharing contacts in the follow-up email. So for everybody who's curious about pricing and special offers for schools and bigger purchases, that will be addressed in a minute.
So I can see a question there about how do you verify they're a teacher? I guess you would use your organization's email address or account to demonstrate that you are employed by a college or university.
Exactly. I think all the detailed questions to how to use the whiteboard have been addressed by Guido.
Yes.
I've shared the link to our YouTube videos, both in the chat and also in the Q&A. It will also be part of our follow-up email. And if you go to Wacom on YouTube, it will jump basically right in your face. All those detailed videos by Guido.
I'll just add my blogs in there for people if they're interested in the chat box to read later if they're interested in some of the things that I've been researching. So that link I've just added is does size matter for synchronous or asynchronous videos? This one is the Education Endowment Foundation, which is the evidence on remote learning. Quality teaching matters, disadvantaged kids having access to devices. Engagement between students online also is critical. So I guess what we could have explored more of in the device, Guido, was how do you get kids to interact with each other through the bits of tools and voting software and things that you might have. And then the last one was the toolkit, which I gave you 16 or 17 suggestions. So I'll just ping that through. Otherwise, that's all the things that I've been reading and learning about. So I'll just pop that through to finish.
I see one more question concerning Google Classroom. Maybe that's something for Guido. If we can share some info on that topic in the follow-up email, that would be fantastic. Or if you have a quick answer now, go ahead.
Yeah. Also, I have one other question I want to point out, but let's start with the classroom question. So yes, I would say I would use, again, the screen sharing opportunity for Google Classroom and Google Slides and Google Docs. They have also some pen functionality built in, but I always would recommend, okay, just use the screen sharing bit of this tool and go for a more specialized tool like the Openboard or like the Microsoft Whiteboard to edit your content. This is what I recommend. But of course, you can also use the onboard tools you will find in the Google apps. Another one which is popping out in the chat is, does Wacom One support 3D applications like ZBrush, Maya, etc.? Yes, this is basically where Wacom is coming from. This is our DNA. And since these applications are professional applications, that does not mean that you cannot do it with the Wacom One. No, of course you can. No matter which Wacom tablet you have, if one application supports Wacom tablets in general, it doesn't matter which tablet you are using. So they all work. Also, there's another point I want to mention, which comes also to the question, can you control live students annotate the whiteboard during lessons? Yes, you can do this. Not sure if you can do this in Whiteboard, but if you, for example, use other whiteboard applications which are purely browser-based, let me mention Colorboard or Limno. Those tools are purely browser-based, and you can define, okay, you should annotate, you cannot annotate, you can just watch. And there are so many browser-based whiteboard alternatives as well.
Okay, and the last question I see open in the Q&A is the PDF annotator that you used early on in your session. That was basically the inking function of that PDF reader, right?
Yeah, this is a PDF annotator. This is a dedicated software, which is Xodo, for example. But you can also open a PDF in Openboard and annotate directly. So Openboard also can open Word and PDF documents. This works as well.
Okay, and
another one.
The last and final question in the Q&A section. What if you teach art and design? I think you mentioned it. That's
potential.
That's our home turf, and you will find a huge list of videos and webinars on creative users, from very basic entry level to basically Disney full feature length animation films. It's all there. It's worth exploring, and yes, that's what we do.
You cannot draw with a mouse, so it's like working with a brick. So that's why you always prefer the pen, because you grow up with the pen. The first thing you start scribbling and writing your name is a pen, and this is why a Wacom tablet brings this into the digital world. So without any, I would say, compromise.
I'm convinced.
Thank you.
Yes, or as we say, the pen is mightier than the keyboard.
And the
mouse.
Get rid of my mouse.
All right.
Ah, interesting question.
So yeah, I guess thank you to everyone for watching. Have a good weekend.
Okay, let me quickly share this last and final screen with you guys to wrap this up. Thanks, Ross, for joining us today. It's been super, super, super helpful to have those questions coming in from your side. And thanks, Guido, for showing us all the fun details of all the opportunities that most of us already have with the software on board of our devices. I think that's very, very helpful. To wrap this up, thanks again for joining us here, all the participants of the webinar. Do follow us on social media at Wacom, and keep an eye on the upcoming webinars. We at the moment do quite a lot of webinars on the topic of education and also working from home, and there might be some helpful and useful tips coming up for you as well. If you're confident and willing to share whatever you created and been doing with a Wacom device or want to bring to our attention, tag it with Made with Wacom, and the team from social media will look at it and pick it up and reshare it. Obviously, don't forget to follow our presenter Ross and Teacher Toolkit with teachertoolkit.co.uk and @teachertoolkit for more education-related topics. On our website, we also have a dedicated landing page for all questions concerning education and the products that we offer for this part. You can find it both on our actual wacom.com website, but you can also find a dedicated section on those products on our e-store. So do check it out. There's a wealth of information, more links to blog posts and other webinars that we run on this topic, and it's a pretty good source for additional information. If you have more questions, we have added here the contact details of two of our peoples in the UK, Sarah Vandenbelt and Jason Walden. If you have a very specific request on pricing and project deals for your school, local information that you need, reach out to them. They're happy to assist you.
There's a last minute question just come in. The Wacom one is out of stock, it says, in the UK. When will they be available?
Well, I suppose it's just one of those container ships that are somewhere between the Channel and Rotterdam and waiting to be unloaded. Give us a couple of days. We are continuously replenishing. Obviously, if one big school buys a bulk, then there might be a little bit of a delay. But products are coming in on a regular basis. So do check out, do come again, or reach out to Sarah and Jason. You can also just reach out to us on our social media channels. We will find the right contact person for you, no matter where you try to reach out for us, be it customer support, be it on our social media channels, be it info@wacom.com. We will be more than happy to connect you to the right people for your questions.
And I can see another question there from Kit. So I've been using the Bamboo One for a number of years. I can't, it must be probably 5 or 6 years. It's on my shelf just here. So I'm very familiar with Wacom products.
There's another question coming up. So this is something for Jason, I would say. So is there an Irish store? It's Tuesday, okay. I think we have a couple of stores in Ireland.
Those 17 tips have just been asked for in the chat box. I'll just send the link there, Catherine. That's the link there.
Yeah, sorry, we have resellers in Ireland that can help out. But yeah, reach out to me directly and I can kind of guide you and help you.
Same story for Middle East. So yes, we have a couple of stores in Dubai as well, also in Abu Dhabi. This is those stores I know. So, but just drop us an email and either to Jason or to Sarah, and they will forward it to the right people and we can take care. Same in Africa. So we are serving Africa as well. Just let us know where in Africa and drop us an email and we will take care.
All right.
Cool.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Thanks again to everybody. Thanks for joining in. Enjoy your weekend wherever you are, and do check us out again at another opportunity. Thanks very much to everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Take care.